Can I welcome everyone to the February 2018 committee meetings of the Dubbo Regional Council. Please note that representatives of the media are present and have been approved to use a recording device to record these meetings, this meeting for their records if they wish. I can also advise that this is quite an exciting evening because it is the first time that Council will be web streaming its standing committees and council meetings live to the internet. So I'll say hello to all the people watching online. As the signs indicate, upon entry to the council chamber, your attendance at this meeting in the chamber is your acceptance of the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. I now open the February 2018 Infrastructure, Community and Recreation Committee meeting, the time being 5:30 p.m. The first item of business is apologies, and I believe there are no apologies to record. Due to a presentation by Michelle Redden of the Dubbo Neighbourhood Centre, I will bring item ICRC 18/11 forward to be addressed at this point. And before I move to the recommendation of this report, I'd like to invite Ms Redden of the Neighbourhood Centre to present her report to us. Hello, Ms Redden.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. In regards to the report that you have, any major changes and ongoing items outside of the KPI report, I'm going to just discuss for you, and welcome to any questions in regards to the KPIs presented to you. The services are going really well at the Dubbo Neighbourhood Centre, and any major changes and ongoing items, starting with the appointment of a new CEO, which has been myself. I officially commenced last week within the role, full-time capacity. Previously to this, I was on the board and also chair on the DNC board, and previously many years in education, both on a state and Commonwealth level. In a strategy planning day held last month with the board, it was decided to change the name of the centre from Dubbo Neighbourhood Centre to Connecting Community Services. This has been a consultation discussion with staff for some 18 months, so it's been great to be able to actually finalise on a name that actually represents what it is that we offer to the community, and that's connecting individuals to different services. This will also allow us to broaden our reach of services and emulate what we do with any gaps within the Orana and Far West. An example is DV Counselling in Wellington. We are providing a counsellor 1 day per week now rather than fortnightly. DNC have and are investing in more clinical-based counselling services, employing a fully qualified psychologist/suicidologist and trauma counsellor, with a team of part-time psychologists and accredited social workers who will be contracted clinicians specialising in evidence-based therapy. The investment into these services allows us to work more intensively with our at-risk members within our community. The services in the coming weeks will be billable in terms of Medicare, with the GP making referrals for the service. What is exciting about this project particularly is the service will be telehealth psychiatry. It is through Skype, not just face-to-face, so anybody across the state can be actually accessing our services if they're a referral to a particular site. This is not offered anywhere else in Dubbo. Consolidating the counselling services for the community is a key indicator I have set for the centre. This has meant analysing the intake of clients coming into the centre in terms of what we have to offer with the open space arrangements we have, which Council heavily supports. A discussion with the board and investigating other potential properties has been had with the council, with the council providing a reference letter of support. We are looking at potentially purchasing the old Telstra building. Now, we're a long way from that actually happening, but it is being analysed against the offset of rent currently being paid at Gipp Street and the potential to create a more discreet environment for the counselling services. And we haven't made an official offer yet, but we're just in those initial stages. We've recently, with our seniors activities program, again something that is supported by council, We run out of Gipp Street property. We've relocated the seniors to the Winjiwarra Street, where we've taken out a 3-year lease. One site has been set up for youth services, 3 evenings per week, which we've called the Winjiwarra Activity Centre. This is a work in progress, and the other side has been set up for the seniors. Because of the seniors being set up in a more central location, we will commence with the community barbecues again. Starting this Thursday, we have an official opening scheduled at 11:30 a.m, of which you're all invited, and barbecues will be held every third Thursday of the month. Gold coin donation if people can afford. So that's just a summary on top of the presented report to you.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Redden. I'd like to see if any councillors or staff have any questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Has anyone got any questions? I was just curious about the Wininga Re-Engagement Support Program, which is helping the kids at risk of suspension. I was just wondering how long has that been running for, and is it too early yet to see if it's had any impact on suspension rates or anything of that nature?
Sure. It is running, so we've had fun. It was a 3-year contract through Prime Minister and Cabinet. We've recently been discussing the outcomes with the Prime Minister and Cabinet. We have had a 12-month rollover, and it's been tricky. They haven't had a 3-year rollover because measuring the outcomes in line with the curriculum with the Department of Education and Training, we've just missed a link there in terms of the mandatory reporting with the children that we're working with and that are in the debt system. So we've just put it on hold for this term, and we're working with debt to come up with a curriculum-based socials activity that brings together both the working with the children at risk as well as meeting the curriculum needs. There are some who don't see the Wininga as a suspension program, and that's what we're trying to change. Right,
okay. And the 344 attendances, I assume that includes individual students that have attended more than once, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Ms. Redden? Okay, I'll thank you for your report.
Thank you.
On behalf of the committee, Ms. Redden. Okay, can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager of Social Services? Moved by Councillor Grant. And a seconder, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Any questions or debate, councillors? All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried. I now close, because we brought that agenda item forward, the Infrastructure Community and Recreation Committee meeting, the time being 5:38 p.m. And I now open the February 2018 Planning, Development and Environment Committee meeting, the time being 5:38 p.m. The first business of item is apologies, and there are no apologies to record. That brings us to agenda item PDEC 181, the report of the Planning, Development and Environment Committee meeting of 11 December 2017. Can I please have someone move that report? Councillor Moore, and a seconder. Councillor Jones, thank you. Any questions or debate, councillors? All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried. That brings us to agenda item PDEC 18.2, the building summary, December 2017 to January 2018. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Director of Planning and Environment? Councillor Shields, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Diffie, any questions or debate? All those in favour and against, and I declare the motion carried. We now have item PDEC 18/3, nominations for the Western Joint Regional Planning Panel. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager of Building and Development Services, Councillor Shields, and a seconder, Councillor Etheridge. Any questions or debate, councillors? All those in favour? All those against? And I declare the motion carried. And that brings us to agenda item PDEC 18.4, legislative updates to the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager Strategic Planning Services, Councillor Jones, And a seconder, Councillor Diffie. Any questions or debate on that item, councillors? All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried. That brings us to item PDEC 18.5, Developer Contributions and Associated Issues, South Lakes Estate, South East Dubbo Updated Report. Before we get to the speaker, can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager, Strategic Planning Services, Councillor Moore, and a seconder, Councillor Etheridge. Thank you. And before we proceed with any debate, I understand that Mr Steve Guy would like to address the committee regarding this matter. Mr Guy, just ask you to come forward. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors and executive staff. I'd just like to request, and noting that the previous council resolution that also included, back in November, that included the 12 other items was made in November, and tonight's recommendation resolution for item 4 identifies that a report be presented to February's council meeting at that November meeting. Now just says that it will not be provided until such time as when the report is finalised. I know that could be earlier or could be later, but as I understand it, this matter is still being, well, the report is still being prepared. I'd just like it to be presented to council in the March meeting so that council are kept up to speed with the ongoings of what's happening. And so in that respect, I request that an alternative recommendation, being a further report, be provided to council in March 2018 unless provided earlier. It's purely for that reason, so that we keep on top of things and keep things moving through. So it is a complex resolution. I understand the one before in November there was 12 items that sit with it. There is a lot of work with engineering to be done, and we are meeting with council's engineering staff on Monday next week, and I understand they're meeting with their Cardno consultants this week as well. So noting the P&D committee meeting next month is the 19th. It doesn't leave much time till the next council meeting, but there is still a lot of work to get through. So,
okay, thank you, Mr Guy. I think Councillor Moore might have a motion to amend the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'd like to move an amendment, and the amendment is point 3 of the recommendation, and that is that an updated report be provided to council at the March 2018 meeting.
And do we have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Gumley, thank you. Any questions or debate on the amendment? No. All those in favour? All those against? I declare the amendment carried. And we have a seconder already for the recommendation. Any questions or debate on the recommendation as amended? No. All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried. That brings us to agenda item PDEC 18/6, development application in Rawson Street. I would like to ask the Mayor to chair this item, as I will declare an interest and leave the room. The nature of the interest is that I own a property 4 doors up from number 7, and therefore I will leave the room. Yeah.
Okay, councillors, we have development application PDEC 18/6, development application for a 3-lot subdivision community title at 7 Rawson Street. Councillors, I'll have a mover and a seconder first. Thank you, Councillor Parker, and thank you, Councillor Grant. So I have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary but significant interest, as I know Mr Mal Andrews, who is addressing council. Thank you.
Okay.
And I will leave the room.
Councillor Gumley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Much along the same lines. I know through my employment an objector to this particular agenda item. It is a non-pecuniary significant interest, and accordingly I will leave the room.
Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. Now, before we proceed, we do have Mr. Malcolm Andrews, who would like to address the committee regarding this matter. Mr. Andrews. Thank you. Just want to come up to the microphone there.
Thank you, sir, councillors and executive staff. For the record, my name is Malcolm Andrews. I'm an occupier and joint owner of 5 Rawson Street, a neighbouring property to the subject property in this matter. In my submission I referred to the Dubbo Local Environmental Plan 2011. The applicable minimum lot size for the subject site is 300 metres square. The application is for 3 lots, Lot 1 at 74 metres square and Lot 2 and Lot 3 being 300 metres square. Lot 1 does not comply with the minimum lot size. Clause 4.14 does not provide an exemption as the subject property is not a strata or community title, and this is an application for community title. For new strata title or community schemes, the standard minimum lot size applies. This was examined by Chief Judge Preston in the New South Wales Land and Environment Court in the matter of DM and Long Bay Proprietary Limited versus Willoughby City Council in 2017. The planner, at page 52 of the agenda papers, has written to the New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment seeking clarity of that clause. There is no uncertainty about that clause. The wording is clear and unambiguous. Where a minimum lot size exists, it should be complied with. And I believe the application, my submission is that it should be rejected. The applicant seeks to remedy that clause and seeks an exemption under clause 4.6, exemptions to the development standards. The applicant is required to justify the variation of the development standard being sought, and this should be evidence-based in my submission. Justification must be adequate, that is satisfactory or ample. The applicant seeks an exemption for the following reason: community property as a lot in the scheme has not been considered adequately in the standard LEP document in relation to the prescribed minimum lot size. Clause 4.6 is not excluded, does not exclude the standard minimum lot size. An alternative to strata title is not justification. A paper subdivision, as stated to the planner by the applicant's consultant, is not justification. The planner anticipates a residential dwelling being constructed on the proposed vacant Lot 3. Anticipation and assumptions should not be made or considered. It's up to the applicant to fully justify the request. Council cannot be satisfied that the conditions of subclause 3 are met. The planner states that development is in the public interest and is generally consistent with the objectives of clause 4.1, minimum lot size, and the objectives of the zone. However, I submit justification must be very clear for council to consider. Where a minimum lot size exists, it should be complied with. Without notice, I draw this matter to your attention and I refer to clause 2.7. It relates to demolition requirements of consent. There is a metal shed in the property which there was no objection by the planner for that shed to be demolished. However, that shed was demolished on the 9th of January 2018 without consent and in contravention to the requirements of point 19 of the appendix document number 3, deferred commencement consent conditions. Without notice, I ask the council, what does it propose to do to ensure compliance, and how do I know that my yard in the rear of 5 Rawson Street was not contaminated? The application does not consider clause 1.2 2E to ensure the protection and conservation of environmental and cultural heritage. The properties on the west side of Rawson Street, Dubbo, between Bolt Street and Cobra Street have significant heritage value, being excellent examples of post-World War I and Depression-era architecture. Some of these dwellings will be 100 years old in the near future, or I should say in a number of years, very soon. The plan states development records for the area only exist to 1959. When my property was conveyanced, I was informed that the council lost many documents in the flood of 1956. However, a number of residents have private records, rate notices and the like that can verify the age of some of these dwellings. It is also proposed for groundwater runoff from the subject site to be redirected to the rear lane using Lot 1. I draw your attention to a photograph on page 94, Appendix number 2, Submissions. This was part of my objection. The photographs show flooding occurring during a moderate thunderstorm on the 2nd of December 2017 and shows flooding at the intersection of that lane and Bolt Street. In fact, Bolt Street floods during a thunderstorm event. Element 1, streetscape character. It's considered that the proposed development will have no impact on streetscape character. Any building erected on proposed site Lot 3 will be in direct line of sight of the rear of number 5, number 9, Rawson Street, and the opposite properties in Hopeton Street. I submit to Council that this application should be rejected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr Andrews. I'll ask Ms Watkins if she'd like to expand on the report for us, or refer to another staff member, or whatever.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The details of the submission and Council's, the assessment officer's response to those submissions have been detailed in the report. In respect of the issue of demolition of the shed or operation of this consent, allegedly contrary to this deferred commencement matter and this report coming through Council tonight, I'll certainly have that investigated tomorrow. And any demolition would be the subject of site contamination assessment.
Okay. So, councillors, we do have a motion before us. Any comment or debate on that matter? Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm thinking, in light of the view that there may have been a structure demolished without consent, that I certainly would like this to be held over while we get to the bottom of that claim.
Further. So that's a amendment, Councillor Ryan, for it to be deferred until. So it'd be deferred for a week until Council, because effectively we do that anyway. Ms Watkins, is that able to be investigated and submitted to Council for next Monday night's Council meeting?
Mr Mayor, as I indicated, I would get somebody to have a look at it tomorrow.
Yep.
And then we'll be in a position to say what the actions are we'll be taking by next Monday, yes.
So effectively, Councillor Ryan, regardless of what we do tonight, even if this is the motion to go through this committee tonight, it is still only a recommendation to next Monday's committee. So, as to next Monday's council meeting. So you could technically move an amendment that it be referred until next Monday's council meeting, but effectively the whole business paper, including this, is a referral to next Monday night anyway. So if there's an agreement from Ms Watkins for a report to come back, I would suggest that that's all that's really needed at the moment, because we can review that as part of the next Monday's deliberations. So is councillors happy with that? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Any further discussion or debate on the matter? So it is to pass it at committee, to be clear. It is to pass it at committee, but again, it is always decided at council next week. So people in the audience, and today the first time web streaming, this is only ever recommendations to council. This isn't a council meeting, this is a committee meeting being forwarded to the full council next week. So, all right. All those in favour? All right, no, carried. And if we can invite councillors Gumley, Moore and Lawrence back into the chamber, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr Mayor. That brings us to the next agenda item, development application D201762, 3-lot subdivision 1, Pozier Street, Dubbo. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the planner? Moved by Councillor Diffie, and a seconder by Councillor Shields. Thank you. Any questions or debate? No. All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried. That brings us to agenda item PDEC 18/8, Modified Development Application D216482 Part 2, Extractive Industry Quarry 20L Sheridan Road, Dubbo. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Senior Planner? Councillor Gumley, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Ryan. Any questions or debate on that agenda item? All those in favour and against? I declare the motion carried. There are no further items for consideration of the Planning, Development and Environment Committee, and I declare the meeting closed, the time being 5:55 p.m. And I now open the February 2018 Infrastructure, Community and Recreation Committee meeting. The first item of business is apologies, and there are no apologies to record. And that brings us to agenda item number 1, report of the Infrastructure, Community and Recreation Committee meeting of 11 December 2017. Can I please have someone move the report? Councillor Etheridge, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Shields. Any questions or debate on that agenda item? All those in favour? Against? I declare the motion carried. That brings us to ICRC 18.2, the Wellington Water Standpipe Sales Revenue Policy 2017-2018. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the Manager, Water Supply and Sewerage? Councillor Jones, thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Grant, thank you. Any questions or debate on that agenda item? All those in favour and against? I declare the motion carried. That brings us to item ICRC 18.3, proposed council road closure adjoining lot 44 DP 756916. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the Manager, Transport and Emergency? Councillor Moore. And a seconder. Councillor Jones. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? Against? I declare the motion carried. That brings us to agenda item number 4, proposed road closure of Part Fitzroy Street. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the Manager, Transport and Emergency? Councillor Moore, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Parker, thank you. Any questions or debate?
Mr. Chair, I must declare an interest in this matter.
Yes.
So it's a pecuniary interest. I currently have business dealings with S&P Marulis through my work with Elders Insurance, so I'll be leaving the room for that one.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Grant. Any questions or debate?
Question, Mr. Chairman. I note that it was identified for in the past for future road corridor. What's changed?
I'll refer that question to the General Manager, perhaps. And that'll be referred to Mr. Devitt? No, to Mr.
No, that's my doing.
I just have a repeat of the question. I didn't quite get it.
It was identified in the report that it was meant to be for future road corridor. What's changed that it means that it's not needed for future road corridor? Is it wise to do this based on the fact that Fitzroy Street's only going to become busier and busier? Yeah, I'm just fascinated to know what's changed for we don't need it.
Right, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the subsequent subdivisions which have occurred in Fitzroy Street, namely the one on the corner of River Street and Fitzroy Street, was approved to where the lots are now come out on the alignment that we're proposing with this proposed road closure. So that subdivision effectively sealed the future alignment for Fitzroy Street north of River Street. So any other adjustments that we're making are to be consistent with that establishment of the road reserve alignment in Fitzroy Street.
Any further questions or debate, councillors, on that agenda item? All those in favour? Against? I declare the motion carried. The proposed that brings us... Oh, Councillor Grant has to come back here. Thanks, Councillor Grant. That brings us to agenda item 5, the proposed dedication of the public road at the Gillinghall Road and Gormer Road intersection. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager Transport and Emergency? Moved by Councillor Jones, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Gumley. Any questions or debate on that item, councillors? All those in favour and against? I declare the motion carried. Thank you, sir. That brings us to agenda item number 6, proposed walkway closure between 36 and 38 Twickenham Drive in Dubbo. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of Manager Transport and Emergency, Councillor Ryan, and a seconder, Councillor Parker, thank you. Any questions or debate on that item, councillors? All those in favour and against? And I declare the motion carried. That brings us to the next agenda item, 7, requests for review of water charges, assessment 1162677. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Director, Infrastructure and Operations, Councillor Parker, and a seconder, Councillor Gumley. Any questions or debate on that item?
Councillor Lawrence, before we go any further, I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary less than significant interest in the item. Mr and Mrs Day's property is located in a community plan that I previously managed as a strata manager for Dubbo Strata Management.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any questions or debate, councillors? No? All those in favour and against? I declare the motion carried. That brings us to agenda item number 8, report of the Social Justice and Crime Prevention Working Party meeting of 31 January 2018. Yep, okay, thank you, Councillor Shields. And a seconder, Councillor Etheridge, thank you. Is there any questions or debate on that report? I might just say a few words on that. I was part of that committee, obviously, and fully support the recommendations, and certainly been, since the beginning of this council, a very heartening process to see a group of councillors who have done things already to show their commitment in this particular area. And this is something that ties in with a lot of professional work that I've done in my life in the criminal justice system, in terms of dealing with people that are troubled by alcohol and drug addictions. And these people very often are the downtrodden of our community, and it's just so very heartening and positive to be part of a council that already is taking steps to help the downtrodden. It's easy to help people in the community often when they're sometimes not as in need of help as the people that we're talking about here. So I just wanted to make that contribution to the agenda item. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to echo those sentiments, and it's been fairly public, the stand that this council is taking, and I'm really heartened by the fact that that groups and organisations who are representing people who are the most marginalised in the community voluntarily coming to council and offering to help. And I think that shows that we're on the right track. We can't promise to do everything for everyone, but council is the organisation in this area that basically represents everyone at the grassroots level. And I think the message is getting out there that we're certainly going to listen to people who do need help.
I'd just like to respond to that by acknowledging Councillor Stephen Ryan of the New South Wales Aboriginal Land Council, who I'm sure he wouldn't mind saying that he's one of those people who've come to us and offered to help in any way that he can. And he represents or comes from a sector or a group in the community that everyone knows are overrepresented in the criminal justice system. And I think it's well acknowledged that if we do get this important initiative up and running in Dubbo, that members of that particular community would be users of the facility. And certainly I would like to publicly acknowledge Councillor Stephen Ryan for his offers of assistance and his counsel and also just the stories that he told us when he came to talk to us that really just rammed home the message about how needed this sort of facility is, and also the need for this sort of facility in our region to be a healing centre as much as a drug and alcohol rehabilitation centre, something that hopefully will have the support services there to address people's underlying emotional and psychological issues in a holistic way, because we know that these things underpin these particular problems. Any further questions or debate, councillors? All those in favour and against? I declare the motion carried. That brings us to agenda item number 9, the 2017-2020 Dubbo Regional Council Disability Inclusion Action Plan update. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager, Social Services, Councillor Diffie, and a seconder, Councillor Gumley. Thank you. Any questions or debate? Yeah. Councillor Shields.
Mr. Chairman, page 59 of the report, conduct an annual audit of council car parks to ensure they are appropriately located and accessible. It's to be done in December each year, and so far the actions taken is no action to date. That's actually out of everything that comes before council, comes before councillors, particularly the Mayor. I can tell you that in this field where we get complaints from the disability community, it's council car parks, and indeed even public car parks, where we get the most complaints. Is this a new policy in which we haven't been able to get, to start the no action to date? Is that why there's no action to date? It's a new part of the action, or is it something that we've just? I'm confused on why we haven't actually gone down this path yet when it comes to an audit of council car parks.
Yeah, I might just refer that to Director Wood, could be the appropriate person.
In the Beth Five-Eighths tradition, I might pass it over to the relevant manager, John Watts, who's in the gallery, to answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the action has been in other plans we've had, and certainly over the years the inspection has been undertaken, generally with Tech Services, the old Tech Services branch, and through Steve Clayton's tutelage, his staff have undertaken that. I think in this instance the plan certainly needs to be updated, whether or not we do it in the next couple of months, but certainly we'll be talking to Steve about how we move that forward, I guess. So obviously what we say to people people with a disability particularly, and I know we've the fellow that certainly helped with this plan, John Gleeson, who's in a wheelchair and did a lot of auditing for us over a period of time, he came forward and said, look, what we need to do is look at these car parks generally and the footpaths generally as well. So what we'll be saying to people out there, and certainly through John and other groups, is that if there's an issue, they need to come firstly to council and say we do have an issue. And that's certainly happened in the past, but what also happened in the past is these regular audits of car parks, which has been undertaken through Steve Clayton's staff as well.
Thank you, Mr. Watts.
So, Mr. Chairman, there has been in recent days actually the formation of a spinal injury support group. I've met with them regarding this matter particularly, and also access and ramps, so that sort of stuff when it comes to our footpaths around the city, region. Is this something that the spinal injury support group would be able to make a submission on for that audit that is to take place every December, so to take their valued feedback, I could imagine?
I suspect the answer is yes, but I might just refer that to Mr. Watts again, if I can.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly we'd encourage anyone out there that has a disability or access mobility issue to come forward and help us. As I said, John Gleeson, the fellow that was in a wheelchair, helped us develop this plan, and we've certainly engaged him through other assets throughout the community to help us look at what the issues are, particularly those people in wheelchairs and traversing gravel footpaths and the like. And certainly we'd encourage anyone, and if the spinal cord unit, if I don't know what the group is, but if they've just been formed, support group, we'd like them to come forward, and if they want to assist, that's by all means they can do it.
Thank you, Mr Watts. Any further questions or debate? All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried. This brings us to agenda item number 10, Dubbo Family Daycare Scheme, proposed increase in fees and proposed introduction of a building lease. I think Councillor Diffie, you have a...
Yes, Mr Chair, I declare a pecuniary less than significant interest as Dubbo Family Daycare provides the service of daycare to my daughter, and I will be leaving the room.
Thank you, Councillor Diffie. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager Social Services? Councillor Moore, and a seconder. Councillor Gumley. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried. We've already dealt with agenda item number 11, so that brings us to agenda item number 12, the Victoria Park Redevelopment Advisory Committee membership. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the governance team leader? Councillor Shields, and a seconder. Councillor Parker. Excuse me. Yeah, okay. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? Against? I declare the motion carried. And just for the benefit of anyone that's here in the gallery in relation to that item, it's intended that the membership of the advisory committee will be dealt with next week in council. That brings us to agenda item number 13, Street Tree Advisory Committee. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager Governance and Risk?
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I have something slightly different to move that is on the agenda, and that is that the committee recommends, 1, that the councillor representatives on the Street Tree Advisory Committee be determined by council, 2, that the 4 community representatives on the Street Tree Advisory Committee be determined by council, 3, that the draft terms of reference as attached to the report of the Manager Governance and Risk dated the 8th of February 2018 as Appendix 2 be adopted, and 4, that the draft delegation of authority to the Street Tree Advisory Committee as attached to the report of the Manager Governance and Risk dated the 8th of February 2018 as Appendix 3 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Shields. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Shields' amendment to the recommendations? Councillor Moore, thank you. Any questions or debate on the amendment to the recommendation? No. All those in favour? All those against? I declare the amendment carried.
It was the motion.
Sorry, the motion carried. And that leaves no substantive motion to be debated.
That's right.
I'll move on to the next agenda item. That's the item ICRC 1814, report of the Cycling Facility Working Party, meeting 29 January.
So I'll move that.
Okay, Councillor Shields. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jones. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? Against? I declare the motion carried. This brings us to the wet weather policy, agenda item number 15. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Recreation Coordinator, Councillor Gumley, and a seconder? Councillor Etheridge. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? Against? I declare the motion carried. That brings us to agenda item number 16, the ground allocation policy. Could I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Recreation Coordinator, Councillor Grant, and a seconder, Councillor Gumley. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? Against? I declare the motion carried. This brings us to the agenda item, Sporting Organisation Fees and Charges 2018-2019. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Recreation Coordinator? Councillor Diffie, and a seconder. Councillor Grant. Councillor Moore, do you have an amendment to this item?
Thanks, Mr Chair. I'd just like to amend point 2, that a 30% blanket subsidy be applied to all sporting organisations sporting ground preparation fees and charges excluding litter control and include in the 2018-2019 draft Dubbo Regional Council revenue policy, with a further report to be brought to Council outlining results of further consultation with affected sporting organisation.
Do we have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Jones, thank you. Any questions or debate on the amendment?
Thank you, Mr Chair. The reason why I move the amendment is to allow sporting groups to come back to Council. I know councillors and this council would hate to see sporting groups fold because of these fees. There is other avenues that sporting groups can go down to reduce these fees by everyone chipping in and having a go, and that's the reason why I've moved that amendment. So if any sporting clubs have a chance to speak up, now is the time, and I suggest they do that.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any further questions or debate on the amendment? No? All those in favour? Against? I declare the amendment to the recommendation carried. Any questions or debate on the recommendation as amended? No? All those in favour? Against? I declare the amended motion carried. That brings us to agenda item number 18, the report of the Sister Cities Advisory Committee meeting of 7 February. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Sister City Advisory Committee? Councillor Shields, and a seconder, Councillor Jones. Any questions or debate on that item? Councillor Shields.
I'd like to make comment, Mr Chairman. Look, it's one of those things actually that has come up when it comes to the merger of the former Dubbo City and Wellington councils, that it looks like we've adopted a sister city, being that of Toyoma, which was in a sister city relationship with Wellington. Now, it's certainly something that I support, that we continue this sister city relationship with Toyoma. In the past, Wellington and Toyoma have had varying levels of visit and contact. It's something that I see has a lot of value for our region, just like our contact and our sister city relations have had a lot of value with dealing with Wu Zheng in China and also Minakamo in Japan. I think Dubbo is one of the local government areas that has got it right over the years, where we have a heavy focus on our young people going over to our sister cities, particularly that we do have a scholarships type arrangement for young people to go over, where they have to look at jointly funding it themselves, and then we get them all to make a report back to council. It is nothing but a very good valued learning experience for our younger people. Toyoma may very well be slightly different. It may very well be a industry-based relationship. It may very well end up being a Landcare-based initiative. When I did meet with the Mayor of Toyoma, when he came to visit a couple of months ago, he was very, very interested in the differences between Landcare of what's done in Japan and what's done in Australia, particularly this area of the woods. So look, it's exciting that we potentially have a new way forward, a new sister, I suppose you could put it, in Japan. It's certainly going to offer a very, very different level of, different kind of sister city relationship, being Toyoma. I can't be more excited to be going over to Japan to visit Minakamo and Toyoma in May. I'd particularly like to put it on record that these sort of visits by councillors and the Mayor from Dubbo are always paid for privately by the councillors themselves. It's one of the reasons why I think we do have it right in Dubbo, because there's none of this councillors going over on ratepayers' funds. The councillors who have indicated that they wish to go so far, just like any of the Sister City Committee members, will be entirely funding their trip out of their own purse, not from ratepayers. And I think I need to be very, very clear about that, because it's always something that local government tends to get a lot of criticisms from, and it's something I'm very, very proud of, and I think this council or previous councils have done very, very well at. They've been able to send delegations over, and they're so committed to the delegations they fund it themselves. And I certainly hope to be continuing that tradition of going over and funding it myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shields. Any further questions or debate on that agenda item, councillors? All those in favour and against, I declare the motion carried. At this point in time, the Infrastructure, Community and Recreation Committee meeting will adjourn to consider confidential matters in closed committee following the Economic Development, Business and Corporate Committee meeting, the time being 6:20 p.m. And Councillor Moore will now assume the chair.
Okay, I'd like to declare the Economic Development, Business and Corporate meeting, committee meeting open at 6:21. Being no apologies, move on to the first item of business, which is EDBC 18/1. Can I have someone move the recommendation? Councillor Grant, second Councillor Parker. Any questions or debate? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item on the agenda is EDBC 18/2, the 2017-2018 Operational Plan, December 17 Quarterly Review. Can I have someone move that way? Councillor Jones, second Councillor Ryan. Any questions or debate? No questions or debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item is EDBC 18/3, Payment of Expenses and Provisions of Facilities for Mayor and Councillors. Do I have a mover? Councillor Etheridge, seconder. Councillor Gumleys. Any questions or debate? No questions or debate. I put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item on the agenda is EDBC 18/4, the Establishment of Joint Organisations. Can I have a mover? Councillor Shields, seconder. Councillor Lawrence. Any questions, debate? Councillor Shields.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Look, it's certainly, I'm pleased the government has recently announced that they are giving an extension for the establishment of the joint organisations. In my mind, the decree that came from the government in recent times that councils must establish a joint organisation by the 28th of February was totally and utterly unfair on councils, especially over the Christmas period and the first few months of the year. Very hard to get for councils to get their actual facts together and to put a proposal together, especially when we don't really know what is totally entailed when it comes to the joint organisations. A joint organisation so far, we understand that it is a marriage of councils which effectively there can never be a divorce. Effectively we can never get out of a joint organisation. The idea that we're pushed into a joint organisation within just a couple of months' notice and we don't really know what it entails, we don't really know what the operation will be, we don't really know what, how much it's even going to cost, was frankly frightening. We don't know how much it would cost our council, our ratepayers. I think this is a very, very good recommendation coming from the General Manager that we do have a workshop on this and we do go through the pros and cons of what could we potentially get involved in, what sort of joint organisation, where could we have a joint organisation, if any, and we go through it in a detailed format in March. So we can have further discussions at the very least with the government and with other councils that may wish to come on board with us in a joint organisation. But again, this sort of business where councils are quickly pushed into a joint organisation when we don't really know what it totally entails or the total cost of it, I think is very, very unfair to local government. And even pushing it back till March, their deadline, I think still not enough time for councils to really consider the cost burden and any savings that's coming from a joint organisation. Thank you.
Any other further questions or debate? I'll have my 2 cents on the issue. I can just say that Western New South Wales has been dudded. There's councils out there being left in limbo. Half of our rock is gone if we decide to go to a joint organisation. And Dubbo being Dubbo, which is the central hub of Western New South Wales, they don't have a lifeline. Effectively, we cut off the blood supply to those smaller councils out in Burke, Brewarrina, Walgett, Cobar. They've just been left in limbo. If you have a look at the report, there's nowhere in the report for them to go. I have heard that they are trying to form a Far West alliance. Basically, one representation of that council goes into a Far West alliance. How does someone in Lightning Ridge or Walgett travel to Broken Hill for a council meeting or for a joint organisation meeting or whatever they want to call it? It's absolutely disgusting. The government has totally wiped their hands with Western New South Wales. They haven't taken any knowledge of previously of what our ROC has done. Our ROC included councils which ultimately fed them. There was a significant amount of knowledge come from this council out to far western councils, which have a lot to do with Dubbo. Dubbo's their first point of call. So at this stage, I won't be supporting a joint organisation because it's leaving a lot of councils and a lot of councils that feed into our area in limbo. And it's absolutely devastating that they've left out. I can see this being another tier of government, another organisation that has a say, and basically council or councillors, elected representatives, don't have a say again. It's another form of amalgamation as far as I'm concerned. We have Western New South Wales, it's been totally wiped out and then put in by whoever they want to go with or whoever they are told to go with, which is devastating as far as I'm concerned. So I welcome the workshop. I suggest the councillors here today do some ringing around with the participants in our ROC and find out how devastated they are. I was with the Mayor of Brewarrina on the weekend and they're just in limbo. They don't know. I've spoken to the Mayor in Burke and they're in limbo. So it's something that needs to take into consideration in considering what the Mayor said, that once we're in it, and we can't go back out of it, which is another flaw as far as I'm concerned. So having said that, all those in favour of the recommendation? Sorry, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I concur with everything you and the Mayor have said, and another consideration that weighs heavily on me is the fact that we've just gone through an amalgamation. It's cost us a lot of staff. We're still a lot of staff down. The collective sigh of relief from staff and councillors when we came up to Christmas was immense, and the last thing I think we need to be doing is going through another amalgamation when we still haven't sorted this one out. And looking at the ward system, which was imposed on this area by decree, that we can't seem to get out of in any easy manner, that is a tiny problem compared, I think, to the JO. So I'm hoping that our association is going to do a lot of advocacy work on this, but I can't see any value in it. At the moment there's OROC with one executive officer and it's run on a common sense sort of a basis, and there's a lot of common sharing there. This looks to me like another layer of bureaucracy which is just aimed to take control away from local communities. So I think that, I would certainly support it if this council campaigned against having to be involved in a JO in any way, shape or form.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan. Any further questions or debate? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to EDBC 18/5, managing unreasonable complaint and conduct. Can we have a mover?
I have to move that one, Mr Chair.
Councillor Shields, seconded Councillor Hamley. Questions or debate? You might as well leave your microphone on, Councillor Shields. Questions or debate? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item is EDBC 18/6, investments under section 625 of the Local Government Act. January 2018. Can we have a mover? Councillor Shields, seconded Councillor Diffie. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I'd like to declare a significant pecuniary interest in the matter before the council at the moment, and I will leave the room and be out of sight during the discussion. The reason for this declaration is that I'm the manager of the Bank of Queensland Dubbo branch, a bank that council has funds invested with. Thank you.
Any further questions or debate? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Councillor Parker back, please. Next item on the agenda is EDBC 18/7, investment under section 625 of the Local Government Act 2017. Can we have a mover? Councillor Shields, seconder. Councillor Gumley. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Again, I wish to declare a significant pecuniary interest in the matter, and we'll leave the room and be out of sight during the discussion of it. Reason for this declaration is that I'm the manager of the Bank of Queensland Dubbo branch, a bank that council has funds invested with. Thank you.
Any further questions or debate? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Councillor Parker back, please. Move on to item EDBC 18/8, the Code of Meeting Practice. Can I have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Jones. Second, Councillor Shields. Any questions or debate? No questions or debate. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item is EDBC 18/9, the Community Support-Based Procurement Policy. Can I have a movement? Councillor Shields, seconder. Councillor Gumley. Any questions or debate? No questions or debate. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item is EDBC 18/10, request for a review of water consumption, non-residential sewer charges issued for 135 141 Brisbane Street, Dubbo. Can I have someone move the recommendation? Councillor Lawrence and Councillor Grant. Any questions or debate? Is that the... yeah. Councillor Gumley.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I declare a non-pecuniary less than significant interest in this particular item, given that I work at the address in question, and indeed I work in the Justice Cluster of the New South Wales Government, which covers the Attorney General's Department responsible for the rest of the location.
Thanks, Councillor Gumley, and I too would like to move a non-pecuniary less than significant interest as I'm employed by the Department of Justice, but I'll be remaining in the room. Any other questions or debate? No other questions or debate. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The next item on the agenda is EDBC 18/11, request for adjustment to non-residential sewer and trade waste account for 161 Brisbane Street, Dubbo. Can we have a mover? Councillor Parker, second. Councillor Grant. Any questions or debate? There's no questions or debate. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And at this point in time, the following matters included in the committee agenda have been considered as confidential by the General Manager in accordance with Section 10A (2) of the Local Government Act 1993 for the reasons as listed in this agenda. Can I please have a councillor move that the reports included on the agenda be dealt with confidentially for the reasons listed therein? So someone move, Councillor Gumley, and second, Councillor Jones. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attendance. Could I please ask the press and public to leave the chamber? Thank you.